Hello, everybody. Amber here. Welcome back to In Conversation with ATF. My guest today is a voice actor. He's just so lovely. I just had a lovely chat with him, and we're gonna have a lovely further conversation. You may know him as the voice of Deckard Cain in the Diablo video game franchise, Gopher for the Winnie the Pooh franchise, Jambalaya Jake in Darkwing Duck, Colonel Spigot. I think Spigot in TaleSpin. I probably
Oh,
pronounced it wrong.
Spigot.
Spigots, because I saw that and I just
Spigot.
thought escargot, because you know how to say escargot, they don't pronounce the T.
Right,
I
right.
don't know. And
That's
Raphael,
interesting, though. Colonel.
yeah,
I
yeah.
am Colonel Spigo.
If he was French, probably.
Right. It would be a Spigo.
That's perfect. I love that. I love that. My guest has also voiced Raphael in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the original. He was actually the successor of Rob Paulson for I think it was a few episodes, or it might have been one of the
Well, it was
season.
it was the final season. It was about,
Mhm.
I forget. Yeah, it was like, I don't know, 10, 12 episodes, something like that.
Yeah, I think it would have been. I have to double check that. Also Duckman in Duckman, the graphic adventures of a private dick. Yes, I can say that because it's a video game title. It's a PC game. It's a PC game. Keep that in mind. The Scarecrow in Tom and Jerry and the Wizard of Oz. Admiral Bullets in I Am Weasel. Jim Gordon, Commissioner Gordon in Arkham Origins. Gnasty Gnorc for the Crash Bandicoot franchise. Speckles in the G-Force video game, which I played the demo so much growing up. Your voice is integrated into my head.
Wow.
And he's also the go-to voice for Shrek. He is like the go-to Mike Myers for video games, commercials, and anything like that. And other TV shows and films and video games. Johnny Bravo, Justice League, Men in Black, the series, Batman Year One, The Legend of Prince Valiant, James Bond Jr., The Wild Thornberrys, the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, Time Squad, and many more. My guest is Michael Gough. Hi.
Yay!
Yay! Hi. How are you doing, Michael?
Hello, Amber. And yeah, before we get really started, a friend of yours just wants to say, you're watching In Conversation with Amber Jones. Oh, somebody else wanted to say something too. Greetings, my friends. You are fortunate enough to be witnessing In Conversation with Amber Jones.
Oh my goodness. I am
a warning. You'd best take heed.
My cheeks hurt from smiling already, and we're not even started with the interview yet. Oh my goodness. Whoa.
Gosh, you did a really deep dive with some of the intro. I'm trying to remember. Gee,
I do my homework.
Good, God, good for you. You're thorough. I'm not even sure I can remember what all of those sounded like. That would be an interesting test.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember Admiral Bullets because it kind of tore my throat apart. I do remember that.
Yeah, I noticed it was him and Princess Lulabelle. Like they had two different voice actors. So it was you and Jess Harnell, and then Lulabelle was Teresa Gansel and Suzanne Blakely. I don't know why they changed voices, but yeah.
Wow.
Weird. But yeah, Charlie Ellis up there, red guy, and
oh yeah.
IR Baboon, yeah. So
sure.
I was thinking to myself when I was showing you all these pictures, have you worked with Charlie? I'm like, of course you have on I Am Weasel. Oh, and have you met David Feast, who created I Am Weasel?
That I'm not sure. I mean, I've worked with Charlie both as, an actor, and he did a lot of voice direction. So I've worked with him on things that he directed too.
What those projects? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, what did he? Did he like? Oh God, what was the name of this? Rocket
Power.
Rocket Power.
Basket Chupo. Yeah, it probably would have been. Yeah.
And yeah, there was like a long. It was like a long episode. It was a special episode called. It was about race around
New Zealand.
New Zealand. So yes,
I think it was New Zealand. I don't know. I can't remember.
Well, I know that I had to do a New Zealand accent for that.
Yeah, it would have been. It would have been that. It would have been that.
he was like the villain. He was the father of the kid, and they were cheating during this whole race. Everything, I'm having flashbacks. Um, but yeah, but thank you for that intro. That was
You're welcome.
uh, yeah.
You're welcome.
Oh,
But
I'm just gonna mention this
mhm.
because it's one thing, and I've got some stuff here. People send me things from time to time,
Oh,
you know.
okay. Mm-hmm.
Uh, but somebody had just sent me a huge box full of things to
Mm-hmm.
like sign and do stuff.
Fine.
So this is for Gears of War, the
Uh-huh.
the video game franchise,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and it's the characters of the Carmine brothers.
Mm-hmm.
There's Anthony, Benjamin, and Clayton, who it's, if you go back, Anthony was in Gears of War 1, he gets killed, but somehow he was sort of popular enough that they wanted to bring him back, except he
Yeah.
was dead, so they brought back his brother,
Mm-hmm.
Benjamin. It goes alphabetically, you see, Anthony.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Then,
see, I see. Yeah, yeah.
then Benjamin gets killed in Gears of War 2, and by
Mm-hmm.
then it had become like a thing, you
Yeah.
know, the Carmine brothers, and then there was a new one in Gears of War 3, Clayton, who was the biggest and badassest of the three.
Mm-hmm.
And so they ended up having a huge like fan vote thing, and they raised money for charity. Should Carmine live or should he die? And they had a big event and they had a
Mm-hmm.
reveal, and so they voted that he should survive. So
Oh, okay.
Clayton Carmine is still alive, but
Yay.
it's become I guess, it's become a popular thing with
Yeah.
some people, and there are like action figures and the paintings, and people, show me pictures of like tattoos that go up and down their leg of like one of the Carmines are
That's
all.
awesome.
Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of frothing at the mouth here. So,
That's okay. That's okay. So someone sent you a thing of a big box of things for you to
oh
sign
yeah,
then.
with like different action figures in them, a
Mm-hmm.
painting, like
Oh,
an original
okay.
painting,
Mm-hmm.
an actual helmet, because the characters wear these helmets, and
Mm-hmm.
somebody had fashioned, and it looked
Yeah.
amazing, and
That's awesome.
yeah, it kind of blows me away. It's like, oh man, wow.
That
uh,
honestly sounds really, really awesome. My
yeah,
hair's
well,
going over the place. I do apologize.
you meant you're an artist yourself.
Yes.
What do you do? What do you like to do?
Mine's more sort of traditional, pen and paper, paint pens. Most of the time, it is paint pens and stuff like that on paper. Maybe a canvas from time to time. I don't know. But
Yeah,
it just depends what I can find, really. And yeah, I just have fun with it, and I just sort of take what that person's really well known for, and I put it onto paper. Just what's in my head goes straight onto the page, if that makes sense.
that's fantastic. Do
Yeah,
you have
it's
anything laying around there you can hold up?
I do, yes, and I
Well,
hope
let's
she's
see.
I hope she's not watching this. I really do hope she's not watching this because this is actually for Andrea Romano.
Oh,
Um, yeah,
well, I don't
so
want you to spill get. Oh, wow.
so far, this is what I've got so far. This
Is
is so
that
I've got
those a bunch of characters that
they're from shows that she's voice
wow.
directed. So Animaniacs, Pinky and the Brain, Tiny Toon Adventures. Wonder Woman's there for Justice League, Batman the animated series, Batman Beyond. She's done a few Scooby Doo projects, Freakazoid, Teen Titans, Superman the animated series, and
Yeah,
yeah, well, Elmira's there. I mean, she did Pinky Elmira on the brain. I had to put Elmira on because, well, yeah.
that's really cool.
So that's all. That's been sketched in. That's not been colored yet. The Disney one's not been colored in yet. This is like just a miscellaneous one. And like these, yes, they don't look like hands, but they're like sort of like guidelines for yeah. This is where her fingers are gonna go, or like where they're gonna thing, and then her like this is a guide for like where I'm gonna put her face and stuff. I'm so sorry. I'm tripping over my words. I really do
Oh
apologize.
no, no,
Um,
that's very cool. Uh,
Thank you. So I'm working on that. That's probably going to take me at least another week to actually get it all completed and sort of colored in.
Yeah.
I doubt Andrea would be watching this video at the moment, but yeah, if you do know her out there, please don't show her this. It's meant to be a secret until next month, so just yeah,
Lips
no,
are sealed.
nope,
Yeah.
nope.
Well,
But
even
my
if you happen to glimpse it, it's only partially there, so
yeah,
she'll
yeah,
still
yeah,
be
yeah, of
surprised.
course. Yeah, you can only really see that
Yeah.
tiny bit. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, that's one way of thinking of it. But Michael, I want to know more about you. What sort of inspired you to become an actor? I mean, one thing I've got to point out is that you've never played Alfred Pennyworth, have you? You don't look like Michael Gough, the actor from London who's in the Batman films. Actually, tell me a little bit about that, about the name mix up, because some places I've seen you referred to as Michael J. Gough, especially on Behind the Voice Actors, because I think the Alfred Michael has done a few voiceover
Yeah,
credits.
right. I've seen like on the IMDb or whatever. I think there have been some credits that were misidentified, like something that I did showed up on his
Yeah.
thing and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I'm not sure. Yeah, on Voice Chasers, does it say Michael J. Goff?
I'm not sure.
I
I think
think.
Voices Chasers has been down for years, under refurbishment for years, but on there's a website called
Oh, Behind the Voice
behindthevoiceactors.com.
Actors. That's
Yeah,
right.
it's on
That's
there. Yeah.
yeah. That's what I mean. Why did I? Oh, Voice Chasers. Somehow
Yeah,
that
I know what you're on about. Yeah,
bubbled
I
up in
really
my
wish
brain.
I could see that website. It's been under refurbishment for many years, I think, so I've never been able to
Uh,
access it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's weird. I'm not sure. Well, I have two middle names, so technically I
Oh,
have
okay.
two middle initials, J
Mm-hmm.
and T.
Oh,
Usually, if I'm, you know, paying a bill or something, the J is part of my, when I'm signing. So I'm not sure how they got the J or they decided to put just the J in there, but um, yeah, when I was a kid,
mm-hmm.
sometimes I would see the other Michael Gough's name, you know, like I think my earliest memory of seeing his name was just if I'm looking in the newspaper at the TV listings and there
Mm-hmm.
was a movie, and they kind of list some of the cast. And
Yeah.
he was in a number of really, well regarded like horror films,
Yeah.
the Hammer horror films. Uh,
Yes.
and I'd see his name and I think, oh wow, look, somebody's got the same name. And
That must have been so freaky for younger you. Like
yeah,
that's not me.
and then but I really had no inkling of trying to be an actor or anything. Um, but I did always enjoy reading out loud. I was into music. My mom was a musician and piano teacher and pipe organist, and so I kind of got the music gene from her. So that's where my first, I guess, creative
Yeah.
outlet was music. I actually have my you know what a theremin is?
Yes.
Okay, I've got mine set up right here because I actually have a theremin gig coming up, and
Really?
I'm starting to just kind of practice.
Wow. That's
I'll
awesome.
get back into that a little later, and if I can, maybe I'll even I'm doing this on the iPad. Maybe I can
Ooh.
even carry it over there and do a little theremin
Ooh. That'd be cool. That'd be
stuff.
awesome.
Um, I like I said, I tend to go off track sometimes.
That's okay. I do as well. Don't worry. If that makes you feel any
Yeah,
better.
yeah. No, that's what happens when the wheels are turning. Um, it wasn't really until kind of fast forward, I was in college and I had gone. I hope I'm not boring anybody who's heard this before because I sort of have told this story. But I went to college. I was an English major to begin with because I wasn't really sure what am I going to do, and I could I was pretty good at writing papers. Even if I hadn't read something, I could shall we say, what's the right word? Wiggle my way through writing a paper about it and make it sound like I knew what I was talking about. And I had gotten a little tiny athletic scholarship for college. Mm-hmm. And that was a whole kind of a different life, but it was fun. I was a shot putter and discus thrower.
Wow.
When I used to weigh about 50 or 60 pounds more than I do now.
That's awesome.
And it was fun. I mean, I was pretty good too, even though I was one of the smallest. Most of the guys I went up against were like behemoths, but a lot of it has to do with I could go way off on this, but technique and angles and torque and center of gravity and all kinds of interesting things. Yeah. But I was about to graduate with the English degree, and I wasn't sure, what am I going to do? I don't know if I really want to teach. Although, my family, my parents and my brother were all teachers. And I thought maybe I'll stick around in college and try to get a music degree, maybe. But I think I was a little too lazy. And then just kind of on a whim, I saw signs around the campus that said, auditions for original one-act plays. It was basically the playwriting class. Mm-hmm. And they chose like a handful of the plays that students had written, and they were going to put them on. So I just thought this would be fun to do before I leave college. And like I said, I always enjoyed reading out loud, and even like imitating things that were on TV. I remember doing that when I was a kid. So I just thought, okay, let me try this just for fun. So I went to these, it was like kind of a cattle call audition. Yeah. And the play authors were walking around, hey, could you read this for me? And I read something. This gal came up and she said, here, could you read this? And I read something, and then she said, don't talk to anybody else. I want you to be in my play.
Nice.
So I said, okay. And I'm still really good friends with her, as a matter of fact.
Oh, wow.
She's been a writer for many years. And so I did this one, I think, I can't even remember. It was either one or two performances, and that was it. And some little light bulb went off, and I thought, is this like something I could even like look into? So I ended up sticking around and getting another degree in theater in college. So I started doing a bunch of plays and doing theater, and thought, well, maybe this seems like something I can try to do, maybe. Then I moved to Los Angeles, and I had even when I was still in college, I went to UC Santa Barbara, which is like not, I'm from Northern California originally. Mm-hmm. And then Santa Barbara is like, it's like an hour and a half north of Los Angeles.
Yeah, I've been there. Really lovely place. It's like an entirely new world outside of LA.
Yes, exactly. And even when I was still there before I was done, well, two things happened. One, there was a casting call put out, and I guess they reached out to drama departments. Mm-hmm. And they were looking for young unknown guys. This was for the movie Dune. Mm-hmm. The first, directed by David Lynch.
Yeah.
Back in God, I forget what year it was exactly. Mm-hmm. Or 80? Very
would have been,
80.
yeah.
And so I went and had an audition with the casting director for that. I didn't get it, and I never did get to meet David Lynch, I was like kind of obsessed with him when I was in college. may he, R.I.P. because he passed away not too
Yeah.
long ago. Um, and there was a movie that was shot in Santa Barbara the summer after I had finished and graduated, and I auditioned for that, and I got cast in the lead role in this movie. So that was my first real experience with, on camera stuff, but it was great. It was a blast.
Wow.
And the movie's floating around out there somewhere. It never really led to stardom like I was led to believe. So that's and then I moved to LA and was doing a lot of theater and trying to, got an agent, and I did a couple of little on-camera things, soap opera, but I wasn't really making a living or anything. And then I took a voiceover class, just because I didn't even know, how does this work? I don't know. I mean, I hear voices. I don't even know how the whole thing works. And I just thought it would be an interesting thing to kind of find out about. And the woman who taught the class was really helpful. And she encouraged me and sort of helped me eventually. Her name was, it'll come back to me. It was a long time ago.
That's okay.
Oh God, I'm ashamed. She was really and helpful to me. If I don't think of it while we're talking, I'll email it to you or something.
Okay.
Because now,
was it by any chance? I'm trying to think of names off the top of my head. Ginny McSwain, maybe?
No, I know Ginny very well too.
Do you? Awesome.
Oh, yeah, I worked with her a lot, and
I know Dawes Butler did a workshop. Michael Bell was a good teacher.
No, her name? Oh, she.
Arlene Thornton.
No, I know all the names you're mentioning, and she was an agent, Arlene.
Yeah.
Arlene Thornton.
I'm trying to think who else could it have been. I have no idea.
She was a voice actress, and like I say, this is going back. This would have been in the 1980s.
Yeah.
And but she was a well-regarded, voiceover teacher at that time.
Yeah.
And
trying to think of who it could have been. No idea.
Yes, shame on me for not remembering.
That's okay. No biggie.
I'm great with faces. Sometimes names are like, uh-oh. I ended up getting an agent who I am still with, and started getting some voiceover auditions and jobs. And the Winnie the Pooh thing was like the first kind of big job.
Oh, wow.
Because I remember when I was a kid, I remembered that character of the Gopher. And so it originally had been done by somebody else, a guy named,
I think it was Howie Morris. Yes, Howie Morris. Yeah.
Sure. So you know a lot of names. And for whatever, and he was still around, but for whatever reason, he didn't want to do the series, The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. And they had the sound-alike auditions at a place that's, there used to be a lot of voice casting places around.
Yeah.
Most of them are gone. There's a couple, but everything's different. Everything's changed. But that's where this was. It was a place called the Voice Caster in Burbank. And I remember specifically they had the Winnie the Pooh auditions there. And I remember when I was a kid, like watching the old Winnie the Pooh shorts, which is where the Gopher appeared, and probably trying to like mimic this voice, with the when my mouth is dry, it's harder. Where is what all this racket?
So we were talking about when you went into audition, I think, or was it to Recorders Go that? I can't remember which one it was.
I guess where I was talking about the Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, it was just that was kind of my first big, like, wow, like, you know, exciting job.
Yeah.
Just the fact, wow, Disney, and something that I remember, when I was a kid, and
Yeah.
uh, I was very excited and grateful, and
Yeah.
uh, yeah, and there is, you know, I'm, and this kind of blows my mind too. Of my voice is at Disneyland in the
Oh,
Winnie
is
the Pooh.
it?
Yeah, the Gopher pops up in the Winnie the Pooh ride.
Oh, yes. Yes. It was shut when I last went last summer, so I didn't get to go on it.
Oh, shoot.
Right. So I hope it's open again this year. I think I'll be going again next month, so
Oh,
fingers crossed.
great. Well, yeah, you'll have to go
Oh, there was
on
a
the
few that
Winnie
was
the Pooh
shut.
ride.
There were a few that was shut. Yeah, Haunted Mansion wasn't open when I went. There was a good few stuff that wasn't open,
Oh,
which is
gosh.
unfortunate. I know, yeah. I think well, it's actually thing into your someone who you've worked with as well, because I know Paul Frees was the ghost host. Obviously, you've obviously not
I
worked with
bet
him.
I know who you're about to mention.
The holiday ghost host himself, Corey Burton.
Corey Burton, of course, who does this an amazing Paul Frees
Yes, yes.
impression. And sure, yeah, it's yeah, I've gotten to work with Corey on a bunch of different stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's
Uh,
awesome.
yeah, just real quickly on the subject of Disney, I've had a few interesting Disney connection
Oh,
things.
really? Uh-huh.
Well, so the Winnie the Pooh ride, you
Mm-hmm.
know, um, there was a kind of a short-lived parade called Light Magic,
I think I've heard of that.
well, there was for years there was the electrical light parade.
Mm-hmm.
So they replaced it with this thing called Light Magic,
Yeah.
which I don't think a lot of people were that thrilled with because they loved the original electrical light parade.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it didn't last that long, but I was the voice of like the narrator for the Light Magic.
Oh, really?
Um,
Awesome.
and there was also, the Tiki Room at Disneyland.
I
They
think
did
I
a
know what you're
whole,
about to say.
uh, well, they did a new version of the Tiki Room um, that was hosted by two bird characters from movies, which you maybe probably know, Iago and Zazu.
I love that.
So I got to do the voice of Zazu. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the new Tiki Room, which I think it was called the Tiki Room under
Under
new
new
management,
management.
it
Do you know what?
wasn't, they didn't do it at Disneyland. They did it at Disney World, and they
I'm
did it
in
at
Florida.
various other Disney parks around the world.
Yeah.
Uh, and it too didn't, I think people liked the original better.
Yeah.
Hopefully
Yeah.
not, hopefully it wasn't my fault, uh, but that was, I mean, it was great, just to be a part of something that was at Disneyland.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here's one other fun fact, real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
Pirates of the Caribbean, the ride.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know. Have you ever been on that?
I don't think I went to. I can't remember. Was it closed last time or I just didn't go on it? It's one of the two.
Yeah. Uh, well, me and my younger cousin,
Yeah.
we were the first two people to ever ride Pirates of the Caribbean.
Wow.
And the reason is,
Wow.
so I encourage anybody they can look this up. So there was a company called Arrow Development,
Mm-hmm.
ARROW, like bow and arrow. And
Yeah.
they were a small little company founded by these four guys, one of whom was my grandfather. And
Wow.
they built, this is like post World War II and back in the 1950s, and they built little like local carnival rides
Yeah.
up, and this is up in the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow Walt Disney had heard about them and kind of liked maybe what he saw. So one thing led to another. He ended up hiring Aero Development to build many of the original rides at Disneyland.
Who
And
was your grandfather?
his name was Bill
It was a
Hardiman.
Bill Hardiman. Okay, okay.
Yeah. If you look up Aero Development, he's one of the four founders, and they were all guys who had worked together in like an, it was like an ironworks place, and they built stuff, but they formed their own little company, and they were building basic. And I have some stuff. There's not a lot that we could find. Some of even the early Disney stuff that they worked on, and some of the little local carnival rides that they built that were like in, parking lots and things. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they ended up building the actual rides, mm-hmm. The tracks, the things, the cars that you sit in. Mm-hmm. And one of the last ones that they built Pirates of the Caribbean and Haunted Mansion.
Wow.
So one day I think, my mom said, hey, I got to miss a half a day of school or something. Do you want to be like, we were the first, me and my cousin, the first guinea pigs to try out this new ride. It was basically just the shell. There was none of the animatronics were there or anything. It was just the actual ride, the track, the boat thing that you sit in for Pirates of the Caribbean.
Wow.
So we were the first ones to get in and test that out and see how it worked.
Oh, that's awesome. Wow.
It's kind of cool.
I'm just seeing all these. Yeah, because you've done wow. Okay. Well, hang on.
Oh,
wow. No, it's not bad. It's not bad. I'm just having a look. It's just saying, well, I'm having a look at the rides that they've done. I mean, some of them are obviously aerodynamics. Obviously, like
right. They got bought out by a bigger company.
Yeah.
Right around the time after Pirates of the Caribbean, so like late 1960s, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they built all of those earlier rides up until then. They did them as their own little company.
That's so cool.
Walt Disney, he liked to save pennies wherever he could. But I think he found this little company that, was probably reasonably priced, but they did this really great work. And yeah, I can't remember everything that they built, the Matterhorn and the teacups and the Casey Jr. train, and
they did a few things for Knott's Berry Farm as well.
And where?
Knott's Berry Farm. They did a few things for Knott's as well. And I'm looking at, they've also done stuff. I did not know this. They've actually done 4 rides that are in the UK. So they did Steeplechase, the UK's only steeplechase roller coaster left, or it might be the world's, which is at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. That was 1977. 1979, Revolution, also at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. What other ones were there? Vampire at Chessington World of Adventures. I've not been there, but that was 1990. So that would have been Dynamics.
Well, this is they got bought out.
Wow, they did the big one. Wow. Okay, that's big.
The original Aero Development, they were called. They got it was right around probably late 60s or 1970s.
It said the fate was 1981, I think.
Okay, so by then it was like a big kind of a corporation. Bought out the name, but it's still, the name's still kind of lived on. But so, all the original, So that was an interesting.
That's so cool. I love that. So they've done four for the UK. So they've done big one at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. That was their latest one. That was 1994. That was the world's tallest roller coaster for a very long time.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. And it's very tall. It's very tall. So they did that, Revolution and Steeplechase for Blackpool, and then they did Vampire for Chessington. I'm still looking here, and this is they did it to Small World as well.
Yeah, I think so. Wow. Yeah, and
that's awesome.
Like the Mr. Toad's Wild Ride and Alice in Wonderland and the Peter Pan.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I can't even remember, but I think yeah, it's on like Wikipedia or wherever it lists pretty much all the rides
Yeah, I'm
that they
looking at
built.
it now.
Oh, one of my favorite, if not my favorite ride, actually, which
Hmm.
is it was Adventure Through Inner Space. It doesn't exist anymore.
I think I know what you're on about. Is that the one with? No, I'm trying to think.
Where
What was the one with general knowledge that Corey did? What was that?
not sure.
I'm trying to think. Where's hold on. General yeah, keep going, keep going.
Well, this ride, which was called Adventure Through Inner Space, it's
Mhm.
like, okay, you get in this, it's like a pod, and you go into this thing, and it's like you get shrunk down to microscopic
Yeah.
size.
A cranium command, that's what it's called. Sorry, that's what
Oh,
I'm on
okay.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, back
Well,
to you.
it's like all of a sudden and this back in the day, there were different rides for different tickets. On
Yeah.
this one of the rides that was free if you had a certain ticket.
Hmm.
So I remember once I went on it like probably 10 times in a row because as soon as you get off, you
Oh.
can just get right back to lining. And yeah, and Paul Frees is the voice of the whole thing as you're going through it. And it's like you're shrunk down to the size of an atom. And you see all these things swirling around you. And then at the end
Hmm.
of the ride, you see this giant eyeball looking at you like you're in
Hmm.
a microscope. And they
Hmm.
had these little miniature pods that made it look like, people were shrunk. And you see
Yeah.
these little people sitting in these things. And it was the same basic ride that they repurposed for the haunted house, where you're sitting
Wow.
it was the same shaped pod thing, but instead of
Hmm.
the Atom Mobile, which it was called for that, right? It was called
Yeah.
the Doom buggy, right? For the haunted mansion. But
So
they
good.
built and kind of innovated this whole kind of track
Yeah.
thing.
Hmm.
So it was pretty interesting.
I'm having a look here. So S&S Sansei Technologies, who I think also sort of bought out Arrow Development,
Mm.
they've done stuff as well. So they did Mumbo Jumbo for Flamingo Land. They did Launchpad for Blackpool Pleasure Beach.
Wow.
Volcano for Fantasy Island. I've been there, but I'm not sure if I've been on that. But Space Shot is like a sort of like a drop tower ish. They've done a lot of
Yeah.
drop towers. Cliffhanger at Flamingo Land. Rush and Slammer at Thought Park. Yeah, so
Wow.
most of it is Blackpool Pleasure Beach. So
Have you
yeah,
and what,
that's
where are you? Where do you live?
I'm in Cheshire, which is up north. It's near
Up
Liverpool.
north? I can sort of hear it in your
Yeah, a lot of people can say, but I'm like, do I
accent.
have an accent? I don't. I'm not. I don't know. It's
But
so
it's
funny.
I mean, it's got a little bit of a North Country thing going on, but
Yeah,
I can't pinpoint because I know, yeah, I mean, there are different ones for like Manchester and
yeah, yeah. Where's the?
Leeds and Liverpool, and
That was.
I'm not sure because I lived in I got to live in London for about 3 months,
Hmm.
and we took couple of side trips, one to Ireland and one up to Scotland.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't get to really spend a lot of time in northern England, uh, but I had a great time there. My
Wow.
dad was actually he had like a teaching thing there for a
Oh.
year,
Hmm.
and so my parents and my brother they actually lived there for a year. I
Hmm.
was in high school at the time, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to leave. I don't want to go away for a whole year.
Hmm.
So I ended up staying, living with neighbors across the street for the school year. Then I
Yeah.
went over and met them, and I lived there for the summer, basically. And I would just hop on the tube almost every day and go somewhere different, didn't even
Yeah.
know where, you
Uh-huh.
know, and that's how I sort of did a lot of my, you know, sightseeing and discovering. And now I'm talking like that. But one thing that was weird, so they had my mom and dad and my brother had been there for a year.
Hmm.
Well, I mean, like 9 months. So
Yeah.
then I flew over and I met them, and I got off the plane and I saw them, and all this, my brother, he's like 9 years younger. I mean, he's
Hmm.
like a little kid. He was like this completely different person. he looked like this little English schoolboy. He was wearing knee socks and shorts, and he had this. All of a sudden, he's like talking with this English accent. And, hello, Michael. I go, who are you?
Love that.
Why, I'm Thomas, your brother. And he had like memorized the entire London Underground system. So if you needed to go anywhere, like, how do I get to the zoo or something? He said, well, first you hop on the Bakerloo line and make a change at King's Cross and get on the Northern line. And, yeah. But he was like this completely, and he had like this kind of Beatlesy, moppy haircut. But yeah, I'm sorry, I'm getting off track again.
That's okay. My cheeks hurt from smiling. I'll say one more thing about Arrow development, and then I'll shut
Sure.
up. One thing I've just found out is the first ever Arrow development ride that was built outside the United States was at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. It's the Alice in Wonderland dark ride they did, and that was built pre-Pirates of the Caribbean in 1961.
Wow.
That's a possibility your grandpa did work on it.
Wow. Well, I'll have to go back and see. Yeah, when did they form?
1945.
Yeah, I think it was like 55?
45.
45. Wow.
So it says on Wikipedia, but then people say, oh, you can't trust Wikipedia.
Well, I think, yeah. Because I know that they were.
That's awesome.
One of the things that they built that I think I've heard or read that caught Walt Disney's eye was this like miniature riverboat.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, people could ride on it, but it was, I don't know, 20 feet long or something. And, he liked, then, of course, he had the full-size riverboat at Disneyland. Yeah. Wow, I didn't know that. Blackpool, I know, is a big, like, beach resort. Right?
It is, yes.
Have you, and it sounds like you've spent time there.
Yeah. Been there a good few times. Yeah, I'm going again in August.
Yeah.
Quite excited, honestly. It's just so, it's like Blackpool Pleasure Beach, it's huge. It's like, you just won't think of it. It's like at a beach resort. It's just so, it's crazy. And just like knowing now that Arrow development sort of like have a history at Blackpool, like pre-Pirates of the Caribbean, it's a chance maybe your grandpa maybe had a hand in the development of that dark ride, the Alice dark ride. But it's nothing to do with the Disney movie, I don't think. But it does have. Yeah. What I find so funny is that when you first go in, it has music from, out of all things, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory on an Alice in Wonderland ride. I'm thinking, what?
Huh. So sounds funny. Like something got.
What did they use before then? Because the film didn't come out until the 1970s, so beats me. Who knows? Michael, I love that. I never knew that about you.
That's fast. Well,
I've learned a few things today.
Yeah. One of my favorite musicians comes from Blackpool. Ooh, or at least grew up there. Ian Anderson.
Oh, okay.
Of Jethro Tull, one of my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
Singer, flute player, guitar, one of the great frontmen of all time. IMO. But I know he wrote a song about, I think it's called Up the Pool, which talks about, going back to Blackpool.
That's cool.
Yeah. Anyway, well, yeah, see, I love, who knows what we will end up discussing.
I know, that is a lovely little rabbit hole. I love it. That's made my night, that has. Actually, I want to talk.
Thank you for, I'll have to go back and look up.
That's what autism does to you. You research everything in and out. Yeah.
Well, you're, hey, you are on the ball.
Hey, thank you. Love it. What about this would be a good thing to talk about now. Now you are essentially.
It's getting late for you, and if the session times out again, we'll start over.
Well, I mean, if it does come to that, I'd be more than happy to do a part two with you sometime down the road because it feels like there is so much to discuss. We're going to have to do at least two parts of at least
Well,
45
sure.
minutes to
Yeah.
an hour. Yeah, I do part twos with my guests. I do. There is a chance.
Yeah.
So voicing Shrek. Now, how did you initially get the gig? Were they originally looking for a Mike Myers sound alike or something? And like the fact that it's carried on to present day is
I mean, there
astonishing.
hasn't been much lately that
Actually, yeah, that's the thing. Just
I mean,
the
I haven't
kart
heard it
racing game. Yeah.
lately. So, and my fingers are crossed. Who knows?
Hmm.
I'll tell you how it came about. It's really pretty coincidental and unusual. So you recall I mentioned, this play that I did in college.
Yeah.
The woman who wrote it, we're still
Hmm.
really good friends. I so I had been working on a video game that I think that involved the world, the universe of Shrek, but I
Yeah.
was just doing a couple of little small parts, and I think during a break in the recording, I was just kind of looking through the script and I was like reading some of Shrek's lines out loud. And somebody in the control room said, "Hey, let's let me lay down some of what you're just reading there." So I thought, oh, okay. So I read some Shrek lines, and then that was it. Didn't went back and finished whatever I was doing. It was just some small parts. So then, like a little bit later, I'm talking to my friend. Her name is Karen.
Hmm.
Uh, and we were just talking about stuff, and she
Yeah.
mentioned the fact. So after I knew her, and from Santa Barbara,
Yeah.
she went to film school.
Hmm.
And she directed some short films and wrote. And one of her fellow students at film school was a guy that I knew because we had the three of us plus one other girl that she knew from film school. When I first
Hmm.
came to LA, we kind of had this thing where we would get together maybe once or twice a month at this particular one restaurant, and
Yeah.
we would just like throw around ideas of stuff that we were, oh, let's try to write something.
Yeah.
So one of the four of us was a guy she knew from film school named David Lipman.
Hmm.
And so here it is, years later, I'm talking to her on the phone. She
Yeah.
mentioned that David had been, uh, this is right when Dreamworks had just formed their new animation department. And, they had done Shrek 1
Yeah.
had come out, and it was very successful. So she just happened to mention to me, and we were talking about David, and she goes, "Yeah, he's a producer now at DreamWorks Animation," and,
Wow.
and she said that she had just had, I don't know, dinner with him or something, and she said that he happened to mention that they were having to they needed a second voice for Shrek.
Hmm.
And I said, huh, a while back I did this video game that, and I just happened to be reading some Shrek lines, and somebody there said, "Hey, that sounds pretty good. Let me record that." I
Hmm.
never heard anything, but I think maybe I could, you know, do the voice of Shrek pretty well, maybe. So she said, "Well, let me tell David." And I mean, I knew David. I hadn't seen him for a while, and he's now a
Yeah.
big wig. He's like a producer at DreamWorks.
Yeah.
So it turned out that they kind of set up like a little phone audition for me to, and I said,
Oh,
"Yeah,
okay.
I talked to David," and so we just had me read some lines and do some Shrek lines,
Hmm.
and then I don't know, maybe a few weeks later or something, I get a call and this is when the DreamWorks headquarters was still up in like San Francisco.
Yeah.
So I get a call that they want me to fly up there and record some stuff.
Mm.
And what it was like a series of different commercials. that they were
Ooh,
using the voice of Shrek for.
that's awesome.
I was like, wow, okay.
That's
And
awesome.
so then I guess, yeah, I kind of became like the backup voice of Shrek. Um, and there were commercials and video games and live event things and
Yeah,
whatever they needed the voice for whenever Mike Myers either wasn't available or didn't or
they
wanted
couldn't
too much,
afford him.
right? And there, so I would work with various. There were a few. There were like sounded like voices for Donkey.
Yeah.
Um, and the pretty much the last kind of main thing that I got to do, which was really fun and cool, was motion capture.
Oh, okay.
So we're wearing the suits, with the
Hmm.
little reflective things all over, and
Yeah.
a little headgear with a camera in front of your face.
Hmm.
So, and this was for this whole. It was like DreamWorks had a new online channel, and this was Shrek and Donkey have their own little talk show. It's called
Oh,
Swamp,
wow. Swamp
I think,
Talk.
and there's a bunch of them like on up, episodes on YouTube or whatever, and these were just short little videos of Shrek and Donkey, talking about various things.
Yeah. Oh,
But
that's so funny. I just
but
searched it
we
up.
we did get to move around, and so not only sound like Shrek, but kind of
Yeah.
move like an ogre. And
Google says Jason J. Lewis was a donkey. I don't know
right,
Jason personally, but I've heard of him. And then it says the other Michael Gough was Shrek.
the other.
That's
uh,
so funny. I love that.
so it was at first it's still kind of tricky. The voice of Shrek it's a Scottish accent, but it's not like a real. It's like a sort of half and half.
Yeah.
It's not like a real full-on Scottish accent, but it's the Shreky Scottish accent. Um,
Yeah.
so which Mike Myers had done Scottish characters before. Uh,
Yeah.
Pretty funny. And yeah, it's interesting. I just remembered another, some of the biggest things I've gotten to do were sound alikes. The Gopher from Winnie the Pooh, Shrek.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
flashed on the fact that I was the sound alike for Roger Rabbit. I kind of forgot about
Really?
it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Um,
At least, at
it's
least you don't post AI pictures like Charles Fleischer does.
I see him. I bump into him at the market.
Oh, really?
I see him sometimes, and sometimes I talk to him. Now it was weird, they even. I mean, I didn't tell him, "Hey, Charles, I'm the backup voice of Roger Rabbit," and they even told me. I think they brought me into a session of his once, which was weird. They goes, "Just we don't want him to see you, but we just want you to watch him and see what he does." That was that's weird. But I remember this. So I would bump into him, and this is usually at the market's called Whole Foods. It's a whole chain.
Yeah.
Now it's owned by Amazon, so it's like
Yeah.
it's like a healthy market. But
Yeah, yeah.
that's where I see him. And one time, I would talk to him now and then and say, "Hey, Charles, I'm a big fan." And he's pretty nice. He's kind of this older guy. But I remember once he told me, I'm looking at apples, and he goes, "You want to know the best way to tell if an apple is ripe? Yeah, you take it, you don't push in on it because that's going to dent it. You rub your fingers across the outside. If it's squeaky, then it's good." And he shows me, so it's like, okay, that's a ripe apple. Don't push in on it. Rub the skin. If it's not crisp, it's not going to squeak. If it squeaks, it's good. So yes, I've used that technique ever since.
That's so funny. I absolutely love that. Oh my goodness. Um,
So
Now, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you were Raphael in the last season. I'm
another sound alike.
another
Yeah.
sound alike. There we go. That's the king of sound alikes.
Well, having a little bit of a musical ear kind of helps, I'm sure.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What was the story behind the recast? And do you know why Rob Paulson
I
sort of left?
I don't
Or
know. I don't know. I have a feeling maybe it had something to do with, a contract or
maybe, yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I don't think it wasn't like oh, I can't do it first. I don't think there was anything going on that he couldn't have done it, other than the fact that there was maybe just some disagreement as to some kind of contractual thing. I don't
Mhm.
know. I never really wanted to ask him. And I know Rob, I've worked with him here and there, and I'm sure he's aware that I took over for him in that
Yeah.
final season.
But you
And
work
I
with the
think
other guy. Oh, sorry.
yeah, the
You
other,
work with the other guys, right? Cam, Barry, and
yeah,
Jonathan.
they were all
Yeah.
there. And
Yeah, because I know
Cam,
Don Barry was he wasn't there for like a small bit, like a few episodes. It was Greg Burke who voiced Donatello, but that was like
uh,
season three.
okay, yeah.
Mm.
Well, yeah, Townsend Coleman and Cam Clark and Pat Fraley and
Peter
Barry
Renaday.
Gordon and whoever else.
Peter
Peter Renaday.
Renaday,
Oh,
Renee
I love Peter. I
Jacobs,
worked with
yeah.
Peter on other things too. Even sometimes there were these series of like live, kind of
Yeah,
like
because he
live.
was a Disneyland alumni as well.
Right, right. We
Yeah,
we
Country
were
Bear
on some of
Jamboree,
these.
yeah.
These were not didn't have anything to do with Disney, but they were like a series of live radio dramas
Yeah.
with live music and live sound effects. I
Hmm.
got to do some of those with him uh, and other Disney things too. But yeah, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles thing, I mean, it was a little odd because I'm walking into this group that's been together for a few years at least. So
Yeah.
I was like ooh, the it was a little intimidating, and Cam Clark, here's another quick sideline.
Uh-huh.
Uh, he used to, maybe still does actually, he would have these big Christmas parties every year.
I think he still does.
Okay. I I got invited to, and the thing about the Christmas party is it's like a show where a bunch of people are
Yeah.
performing.
Hmm.
And so he asked me, he had me come and perform a few times. Um, one time, a couple of times playing the flute or
Hmm.
the Irish, the penny whistle, doing
Ooh.
like just a
Yeah.
medley of various Christmas mashups
Hmm.
songs. One
Hmm.
time he wanted to make this like this kind of surprise moment. So I guess he knew that I played the bagpipes, which I do sometimes.
Hmm.
So, and I have like the get up. So he had me show up. The party was like going. It's like had been going for a few hours. And he wanted me to like wait and hide outside. And there was going to be a moment in the
Hmm.
evening and then there was somebody at the window signaling me outside. So when this moment came, I see the signal. So I start playing the bagpipes outside
Yeah.
and I start kind of marching toward his front door. And everybody's like, oh, what's happening? And then they kind of open the door and I walk in playing the bagpipes, whatever I was playing.
Hmm.
And it became like this kind of, really big,
Yeah.
cool moment. Um, and yeah, it's been a while. And he has people kind of come and go from the
Yeah.
parties.
I
Ginny
need to
McSwain was always at his
I
parties.
need to meet Ginny so badly. Like I
Yeah,
have
boy.
people. I know people who have. I know Cam's friends with her. Who else is there? I know there's a writer named Nicole Dubuque who's friends with her. I want to get her for my show, but she doesn't really do. She's sort of retired from the business, but she did like a podcast interview recently. It was a Hanna-Barbera one. So I'm like,
Hmm.
why
I
not
don't even
do mine?
I don't even know what she's doing now. If
She's
she's
just
maybe,
retired and just living the dream, I think. I
yeah.
have her email, but she's not responded to me in years.
Well,
But yeah.
I'm sure, you know, God, who? Well, I'm sure Rob Paulson, knows her pretty well.
I'm really that close to Rob. He's mainly traveling a lot and doing a lot of concerts and Comic Con, so I don't really get a
Yeah,
chance to see them as much as I used to anymore.
yeah.
But all the other turtles, I'm close with. I mean, I don't hear from Barry that much, but yeah, I am on par with Townsend and Cam and Renee as well.
I've seen Townsend here and there. I've seen him in some plays actually at this
Yeah,
one particular theater company, and but everything's so different now. You used to see people all the time at different
I
places, and now
know. Yeah, well, it was Andrea
all the
Romano.
auditions are done at home and now, and
Yeah, well,
even a lot of times when you go and record stuff, you're just doing it by yourself.
it was Andrea who used to do all the ensemble recordings with everyone.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's interesting when I was doing the Winnie the Pooh.
Mhm.
Um, we never saw Piglet because he was in New York.
John Fiedler.
John Fiedler.
Really?
Yeah, we never saw him,
Wow.
and he's so. I knew of him before Winnie the Pooh, but and that's exactly the way his voice sounds normally.
Really?
He just sounds that way. If you see him in other things, he did a lot of like TV and film stuff.
That's
That's the way his voice is. Um, Paul Winchell, who was Tigger originally,
yep.
Tigger.
Yep.
I got to work with him maybe once or twice. We never saw him either, but there were a couple of times when there was singing involved, and there were some episodes where there's like it's kind of like a musical. I
Yep.
did get to work with him on those occasions, and
That's
he was like,
awesome.
he was a really interesting guy if you know anything about him.
Yeah,
Um,
I've heard a lot. The
he,
inventor, he's a ventriloquist.
yeah, and he sort of invented the artificial heart.
He
Uh,
did, yeah.
and his daughter, April,
April! I've had her on my show. She's April. She's in
she's so yeah,
Las Vegas, I think. I need to try and
oh,
oh man, I've not spoken to her in the longest time. I'm gonna shoot her an email after this for sure.
she's
Yeah.
hysterical.
Oh,
Yeah.
did you? This is obvious. It's an obvious answer, but did you work with or meet Peter Cullen, Eeyore?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yay! Sorry.
Well, that's the thing. All the other people besides Piglet and Tigger, they were all usually we were all together. So it was
Yeah.
Kim Cummings and Peter Cullen and
Who,
oh,
who voiced
Ken
Kanga?
Sansom was
Ken
Rabbit,
Sans. Yes, yes, yes.
and sometimes there were like other God, Patty Paris was Kanga.
Yes.
Rue, we never really worked with the kids.
Nicholas Melody. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Uh, I mean, it was a pretty small group, but that's yeah. Um,
What about Hal
Cullen.
Smith?
Oh, of course. God, how could I forget? Hal Smith. I love Hal Smith.
We'll do
He
Hal
was
Smith
so
and
they
Peter
were.
Cullen.
Well, Hal Smith was Owl.
Yeah.
Peter
He was
Cullen,
the original
Eeyore.
Owl. Yeah.
Yeah, and just so much. And now, yeah, Owl has been Andre Stoica for
Yes.
a while. But yes,
Mhm.
Hal Smith, I adored him. He was so friendly. He would tell great stories. And Peter Cullen, he was great. One of the things that I ended up doing on Winnie the Pooh was, Gopher he tends to fall into his own hole.
Mhm.
So, he's saying in the middle of saying something like, I got to get back to.
We're on about Gopher falling into his own hole, and that's the last thing I
Well,
heard was just
so yeah,
ah!
and Apologies for I
That's
continue to
okay,
run
don't
off at the
worry.
mouth, but it's
Yes.
you're great to talk to, so that's
Thank
my view.
you.
Uh, so Gopher would fall into his hole, and I kept, as time went on, I kept like trying to make the falls longer just because it was kind of funny and I could sort of sustain the, I probably can't do it now, the
Mm.
and Peter Cullen would just crack up and he would kept saying, do it. He would like challenge me. How long can you do it? And so it eventually led to this one episode where the writers kind of caught on, and in the beginning of the episode, Gopher falls into his hole, and then they cut away, and then they keep cutting back to him throughout the episode, and he's falling the whole time. So it's like, and then finally at the end, after they've cut, you hear him like 5 or 6 times still falling. Finally, at the end of the episode, he's oof. So
That's
it just became a
perfect.
thing. But it was so, and every time I would see Peter Cullen out in the world anywhere, he would say, "Do it, do the fall." Even if I bumped into him like at a store or something, I would just, all right, and he would crack up. And
Oh, that's
it was
perfect.
fun. These guys were,
Oh
and
my goodness.
I was kind of in awe of all these guys. As a fan, I would see, guys that I recognized like character actors from TV and voices that
Yeah.
I knew about. So yeah, I was a fanboy.
Yeah. Well, when was the last time you saw Peter in person?
Well, I I I don't know. It's weird. I haven't seen a lot of people in a while, and
God, if I some
first
oh, someone close
because
to
well
me.
because the industry changed and things were changing anyway,
Mm-hmm.
so that a lot of what you do is just kind of by yourself. And but then and then COVID came along, and I I can't remember the last time I saw Peter or a lot of people, and I used to see
Yeah.
people pretty regularly. Um, yeah,
I'm having a look at
trying to
when.
remember. There were, well,
Well, I was gonna
guys
say, oh,
like Pat Braley. Ah,
if I do meet Peter Cullen like outside of a Comic Con or like TF Con in Burbank or something, I've got to ask you to come with me. And if he just, I'm like, um, I just go to him. Come on. Do you want him to do you want him to do the fall again?
God,
And just like,
if he remembers, yeah. I
what
mean,
about
he probably will.
he usually does cons with Frank Welker. Have you ever worked with Frank?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, fair
The
enough.
the kind of the godfather of
The
all
mastermind.
cartoons. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um,
He's the one he rains down on us all. He's like, ah.
yeah, I know.
So
It's it's amazing because I watched a lot of cartoons when I was a kid,
yeah.
and I just then when I sort of got to work with some of the people that I had known about, I was like, wow.
Yeah. I'm
um,
just I'm having a look at Gopher's Wikipedia page. I've seen some information. It said apparently he was created as an intended replacement for Piglet, but then they decided no, we're going to keep Piglet as well as Gopher. And then sort of the
yeah,
proposed character of Gopher was to sort of like have an American sort of grassroots image than Piglet. While American audiences loved the character, British audiences were less pleased.
yeah. I think Gopher's been he's been kind of banished to his into his hole for a while. So
Yeah.
interestingly
What
though,
was
I
it
think
last?
it was like earlier this year, I had a job for Disney, which involved the character of the beaver from Lady and the Tramp,
Oh.
which basically sounds the same as Gopher, because even though they were two different actors originally, they spoke the same way, you know.
Yeah.
The
Mm-hmm.
beaver came first from the movie Lady and the Tramp, and
Yeah.
then Gopher showed up in Winnie the Pooh. the beaver was I'm blanking on the actor's name at the moment. It'll come to.
Ah,
It was don't tell. Oh, Stan Freberg,
yes,
his
the
name,
legend himself.
and then the
Season six
Gopher
serpent.
was Howie Morris, as you
Yeah, I'm
earlier.
pretty sure they worked with each other at some point. Yeah,
I don't. Yeah, maybe. I know Stan Freberg did a whole ton of things, and he was kind of a
yeah.
legendary, you know,
Time for
comic
Beanie.
actor. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, with those Butler, he just did all these
yeah,
sort of
yeah, yeah.
things, and then
I never
he
did
was.
get to do anything with Dawes Butler.
Oh, did you not? When did
Uh,
you? When did you start in the? Well, you said Winnie the Pooh was your first or big job, so I presume like
well, I start my
88.
first. Yeah, I did a few things before Winnie the Pooh,
Mm-hmm.
like a few episodes. Yeah, it was kind of like the first things I started doing were mid to late 80s.
Ah,
Like,
okay.
um,
I'm looking through
yeah,
your
I never
Wikipedia
did
page
get to
now.
really meet or do anything with Dawes Butler.
That's a shame.
Although I
Oh.
did have a really interesting encounter with, uh, God, I'm ashamed of myself for forgetting all these names here. The voice of Scooby Doo and all kinds of
Don Messick.
Don Messick. Sorry, Don.
That's
Uh,
okay.
so I was, yeah, I was still in Santa Barbara. I think I had just finished. It was that last summer when I was doing that movie, and somebody who knew that I was a fan of this stuff said, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
Don Messick lives in Santa Barbara, and if you'd like to meet him, I can probably, you know,
Ooh.
what? Are you kidding? Of course." Uh, so I did. I got to go to his house. He lived kind of right near the ocean. And
Ooh.
he was, he was so nice. And he was
Oh.
just really open to just kind of chatting. And we took a little walk. Well, he walked his dog. I walked with him on the beach. And at his house, he had this whole shelf up, like a high shelf that kind of went around this room that had like puppets and ventriloquist dummies in it,
Oh.
because that's something that he had done when he was younger. And while we were talking, he would have to stop every now and then and go into this little booth he had set up. He was doing live DJing on this classical music radio station.
Wow.
So he would say, and then the music would play for like a half an hour. And then he would say, "Oh, excuse me, I've got to go in." And he would go, "Oh, that was Piano Concerto number 3 in D minor by Mahler." And then he would he did this whole like FM classical music DJ
That's
voice. And then he would come back and and he was so nice. And so I got to just kind of spend a whole afternoon with him.
that's awesome. I love
Yeah,
that. I love that. By any chance, do you remember working on a show called The Legend of Prince Valiant?
sure.
Do
That
you?
was,
Okay, good.
yeah, yeah. That was directed by a guy named Stu Rosen,
Was it Stu Rosen? Okay, I
you
wasn't
know,
sure of who it was.
who he directed a lot of stuff, and he worked with Ginny McSwain a lot,
Yeah.
and he would do some. And then I hadn't seen him for years, and then all of a sudden he shows up on camera, this show about. It was on Showtime or HBO. It was
Yeah.
about Rome, like ancient Rome. I forget the name of the show. I'll have to look it up. But
Mhm.
yeah, I do definitely remember Prince Valiant.
Awesome.
Robbie Benson, right, was the voice of Prince Valiant.
Yeah.
Uh,
Who else
you
was
know what
there?
was kind of cool? They were
Hmm.
very,
Yeah.
again, for me, the show, the series Zorro, whatever it
Yes,
was
you were
that
in Zorro. I completely forgot. I'm
uh,
so sorry.
there were a lot of guest stars or guest villains. So I
Yeah.
got to work, one time here and there with like Mark Hamill and
Ooh.
oh golly. And I would try to get them to sign, the script. And
Yeah.
Ed Asner and Yeah.
That was
I
actually
got
going to be a question I had written down was what has been your most memorable recording session so far to date?
jeez.
If it's
Uh,
easy to pick for, if it's easy for you to pick.
and no, it's not easy.
Sorry
Uh,
about that.
oh God, it's so difficult to question. Whatever shall I do? Let me see. Boy, at the very first Winnie the Pooh session just stands out in my memory because it was like the first time I had really gotten to do something like that. I had done
Yeah,
a couple of single episodes,
yeah.
like, oh, was Prince Valiant before Winnie the Pooh?
It was after.
After there was something up, maybe there was something called Defenders of the Earth. That's pretty obscure.
No, I do. I think I've heard of it. I think I've heard of it. It's somewhere in my mind. Hang on.
You know,
Defenders of the Earth.
uh,
Aha, yes. Yes, it's a yes.
so
Yeah,
was
yes,
that
yes, yes, yes,
before
yes.
Winnie the Pooh?
Yes.
If I'm even not mistaken, I think maybe that was directed by Stu Rosen.
It might have been, but that's a good
Uh,
cast there. Diane Pershing, Peter Renaday, Bill Calloway. My goodness,
oh
I
wow.
have been trying to get a hold of him for years. No one's heard from him. I just can't find him at all. I'm trying to.
I,
This is
yeah,
crazy.
I mean I remember him.
I just can't
Boy.
find him. I know he lives in Las Vegas, but like,
Huh.
where in the world? We're not looking for Carmen San Diego now. We're looking for William Calloway, everybody. And Lauren Lester as well. I would have
Oh
loved to have
yeah,
gotten him on
sure.
my show, but then
Lauren
like,
Lester. I know Lauren. His daughter was nominated for a Tony Award on Broadway a couple of years.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
and like I've been trying to get him on my show for years, and then my friend eventually met him at a Comic Con and asked him for me, and he's like, "I don't do interviews anymore. I feel like I've talked about everything enough." I'm like, "What? I've been trying to get you for like 3, 4 years, man." I'm like,
Well, see, I mean, I like talking, so, and I love talking to you. But
I
I
think I've been
do think sometimes that I'm retelling stories that I've told
no,
before.
no,
I
not at
think
all. I'm
people
trying.
are like tired of hearing it. But
Hang on, I just want to check something real quick. I think when did I? Oh, I'm so surprised that I've not reached out to you beforehand. Like, I swear I reached out to you years ago asking if you did interviews, unless I went through Avio. I don't know. Let me check. I've searched up. Let me search up your name in my emails real quick. Um,
I don't
and
know. I
I have
may.
no. I don't know. Oh, would you look at that? Oh, hang on. Wait. No, maybe. No. How the heck? I'm just baffled, man. How have I never tried to get you on my show before? Because I swear I reached out to you before, whether it was
Maybe you
directly or through your
did,
agent. It's so
and
weird.
something I
No
don't know.
recollection of it in my emails. It's
Uh,
just I'm looking in my requests and someone did actually request you a good few years ago because you do all these people. Michael J. Gough. I was like, I mean, Luke Dunlap. Here you go. Yeah, because it's all these
well,
people and stuff, and I'm just thinking, I'm never gonna get any of these people. I mean, he's put Trez McNeil. I doubt I'd ever gonna get her. Peter Cullen. I don't think he does interviews. Corey Burton is a stretch. Cam I've
hmm.
had on. Yeah, Dan Castellaneta doesn't do interviews. Billy West I've had on. Jim Cummings. I mean, I interviewed him a few years back, but that was for a different project. So it's just BJ Ward. She said yes, but like there's been a bit of a conflict between doing it in person and online. Like I've said, can we meet in person? It's failed the last 2 times, so I'm like third time lucky. I don't know. Anyways,
Hmm.
um, Michael, I'd like to talk to you about the Duckman PC game that you did. Now,
I
apparently,
it's Yeah, let's and you I think you may be right. We may have to do a part two uh sometime. I
yeah.
so there was this is so weird. It's a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the earlier things that I remember getting to do. But
Yeah.
they did and this wasn't even a game. This was
No.
like just a series of little short episodes that they
Yeah,
did for
like point and click.
online
Yeah.
Duckman back in the
Yeah.
early days of.
Yeah.
And again, sounded like Greg Berger, right? Uh,
Yeah. Oh, Greg.
who I know Greg really well.
Yeah.
So I don't know why he didn't want to do these things, but it was like a little
Oh no,
separate thing.
it was Greg voiced Cornfed, and it was Jason Alexander who was
Oh, Jason
Duckman.
Alexander, of course.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
said about Jason like didn't want to record like this many lines, like there was loads of lines to record, and he just didn't have
yeah,
time to do them all. So he was like just bringing a sound. I'm
right.
like, I think I'm probably wrong. I'm gonna just fact check that real quick. Hang on,
Yeah,
Duckman PC
yeah.
game.
No, of course. Yeah, Jason Alexander, and Greg was Cornfed.
He was, yes. Aha! Jason Alexander, who voiced Duckman in the television show, turned down the role for the video game. Playing Duckman painfully strained Alexander's voice, and as such, he felt the game's script, which included over 5 times as many lines for his part as he did in a typical episode of the show, would be too much for him. Veteran actor Michael J. Gough provides his voice for Duckman instead. The remainder of the show's cast all reprised their roles for the game.
It's weird that, see, I never really go by with the J.
They probably put it there because someone put somehow, the other Michael Gough there.
Yeah, it shows up. Yeah, I can see how that voice is a little tough on your voice. I mean, you gotta breathe.
Yes, I can sort of hear it. Yeah,
if I even remember what he sounds like.
Yeah. Man, that's must have been painful for him.
Yeah.
That's crazy though.
Oh, come on. I just sat down at my desk. I don't want to get up again. I'll have to go back. I can't even remember what he sounds like exactly. Yeah, but I do remember going, this was one of the first times, going to this was at Paramount, on the lot, at the studio.
Yeah.
And wherever they had a little recording area. So yeah, and it was a little, and they were doing these little online episodes too.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, it's all good. I mean, the work is the reward for, most of the time you spent auditioning, at least for somebody like me. There are people who are in the upper tier who really don't have to audition much at all.
Yeah.
But I'm like, for auditioning pretty much, that's like 98.7% of the work is the fun part. Yeah. I just flashed on this also, so I'll go off track again here.
Okay. Yeah.
Briefly.
Yeah. Permission granted.
Speaking of going, sometimes I've gotten to go to the studio, whether it's Disney or like Paramount, but not too long ago, a couple years ago, got to go to it's the 20th Century Fox lot.
Oh.
But they had sort of been bought out by Disney, and so who ended up owning like The Simpsons and all kinds of other properties. But this was it was a movie that came out, and it actually was nominated for like Academy Awards and other big awards, called Ford versus Ferrari. It was great. So in the movie, I'm like in the very opening scene, and it sort of tells a true story about the guy who was a race car driver back in the late 50s. So I was the announcer for the 24 Hours of Le Mans race. But you had to sort of have the retro sound of, an announcer back in the 50s, we're coming down to the last laps here at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Carroll Shelby, the first American to ever lead the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And, and they cut back and forth, and finally he does win. The checkered flag is down. Carroll Shelby. It was fun, and I got to go do that at the studio. But while I was there, the place where they were recording it was right next to this huge uh, sound stage where
Hmm.
they record and have recorded all of the like music, soundtrack music
Yeah.
for films for decades. And all
Wow.
around this whole area, there were beautifully framed photos of famous musicians and others who had been there recording music. And you see there's a like a big grand piano in there that's been played by a million people. And they let me go in there.
That's
And I got to
awesome.
sit down and play this piano. And like Elvis Presley was at this piano, but literally for like the last 50, 60 or more years, they've
Hmm.
recorded all these movie soundtracks in this one studio. And a couple of the photos they had
Hmm.
were of the guy playing the theremin for the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still, which
Wow.
I don't know if you're familiar with the original from
I
the
think
like
so.
1951.
I've
The
heard of it.
soundtrack to that movie is unbelievable, and it uses the theremin in it, and it's famously so. I was just like, wow,
That's
it,
awesome.
it was yeah, it was like standing amongst, and you can see in these photos, you can see some of the instruments are still laying around, and you see who's been using them and what movies were recorded in there. So anyway, that was
That's
kind
awesome.
of amazing.
That is really awesome. Good for you, Michael. I'm happy you got to
Yeah,
experience that. That
well,
is
I was
awesome.
hoping, they didn't have to, but they did let me go because I said, "Is it okay if I go in and look around here?" And yeah, sure.
Yeah, go on then.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome.
uh,
Um,
thanks.
my final question to you, Michael, for part one. What is it like being a significant part of the Disney afternoon? Essentially because you were in Darkwing Duck, you were in TaleSpin, you were in, of course, the Winnie the Pooh cartoon, and I think you probably would have had guest spots on other
Goof Troop.
Goof Troop, yeah, and stuff like that. So what was it like,
Uh,
sort of like, taking part, well, not taking part, but like being a part of all these things? I apologize. My I have a thing starting to come from my neck. I had an itch there, and now, oh yeah, let me scratch there. Oh, that's okay. Let's just make your whole neck red. I'm like, please don't. I'm just trying to hide
I
that.
can't tell. It doesn't
It's only
show.
me on my end because I'm so picky, and I can
Hmm.
see the yeah. Anyways,
Uh, I'm slightly colorblind, so maybe
oh wow, yeah, okay. I didn't know that.
certain shades of certain colors. Uh,
Wow.
mm, yeah, boy. Of course, it's amazing to have been associated or a part of the Disney afternoon. Um, yeah, Winnie the Pooh started, and that was in the morning actually,
Yeah.
when it
Yeah.
started. But then the first one I remember doing was TaleSpin, and they actually the character of Spigot or Spigot, uh, Colonel Spigot, was actually originally voiced by someone else. They had already recorded a couple episodes, and
Ooh.
I guess they just didn't really like the way it was sounding or the direction it was going in, and for whatever reason, they decided to recast it.
Let's have a
Um,
look. Does it say on here? Who?
and I know who did it originally. I don't even,
Really?
and he's done tons of cartoons. But I kind of don't want to say who it was because it's kind of, I don't want to say, well,
Are they
he
still
did.
around, or have they passed?
Yeah, yeah, he is.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
I'll tell you maybe after we stop recording. If you want, I'll tell you.
Oh, okay,
Because
yeah,
I
yeah.
just feel like I shouldn't probably say, but
Hmm.
I do remember because I had been doing Winnie the Pooh, so I was sort of familiar to the people at Disney, and
Yeah.
so they had
Uh-huh.
me come in, and some of the episodes, couple episodes, had already been animated. So the audition was to you had to match the picture.
Yeah.
And I think I remember Ginny McSwain was running this audition. And so, but they didn't want it to sound like the way it had sounded before. I think it,
Yeah.
uh, so it was just a completely different thing. And Spigot has these kind of big teeth or fangs or whatever. He's like
Yeah.
a little warthog. So he ended up with this kind of messy lisp.
Ooh.
My name is Colonel Spigot. Perhaps you've heard of me. And he was very short. A lot of these characters I've done are like Gopher, Spigot. They're like short, but he had a complex about it. He was like, are you making short jokes? But he had, he was full of himself, and so.
Yeah.
But that was a really kind of matching the picture, which is what you do when you're doing like looping and
Yeah.
stuff. And it was a little tricky because these, it wasn't necessarily animated to the way your voice is to what you're doing. So you got to squeeze a couple of things in here to match the mouth movements. But I think I'm pretty good at that. So, and then that led to, oh, okay, gee, and they ended up, choosing me to do Colonel Spigot on TaleSpin, and
Yeah. The rest is
and
history.
that was a plan. The rest is, uh, uh, and then the Darkwing Duck, Jambalaya Jake with his little Cajun accent. It's like lots of different fun little accents.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you one quick thing about Gough Troop.
Mm-hmm.
So there was so when I was in college, there was I knew a guy who was in a band. The band was called The Spoilers,
Mm-hmm.
and there was another guy in the band who I kind of knew just through him. And I kind of got to know them pretty well. And then years later, this other guy who was in the band ends up, he's working for Disney as a script writer for animation.
Oh,
And
wow.
he was writing, his name was, sadly, he passed away a few years ago, Dean Stefan, Stefan. He was in the band, The Spoilers, and now he's a writer for Disney, and he's writing for Gough Troop.
Ooh.
So he kind of came up with this character, and he named it. There was another band in and around Santa Barbara who they knew. They were kind of a punk band. They were called the Rotters, the Rottas. And the lead singer in the Rotters, he used the name Fester Swollen. So Dean kind of stole that name, wasn't sure it was going to pass, I don't know. He wasn't sure if it was going to fly with Disney to use the name Fester Swollen, but it's sort of, they got past, nobody stopped him. So he kind of came up with this character, and it was kind of an in-joke between me and him. Nobody else knew where the name came from. So he sort of came up with this character for me to do. And Fester Swollen he's in a handful of episodes, and he sort of takes on a different persona here and there, but he too would have a little bit of a but he sounded different than the Gopher, hopefully. But just little anecdotes here and there. But getting back to your question, it was pretty. I mean, I'm totally grateful that I got to be a part of that. Anything Disney is kind of iconic.
Yeah, definitely. Just real quick before we wrap up, I just want to quickly know, because I completely forgot to ask you this. When you were recording for the Enchanted Tiki Room under new management, did you ever get to meet Gilbert Gottfried?
No.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Ask. It was a lot of that stuff you're sort of is done on your own, and there was the whole Disney character voices. is the
Yeah.
whole department that oversees every character that's ever existed
Yeah.
to keep the vocal continuity going. And there was, well, in particular, this one uh, woman who worked there who was very, and we became good friends. And sadly, she's not with us anymore either.
That's a
But
shame.
she was really nice to me and
Yeah.
would call me in for things and kind of hire me to do
Yeah.
things. And
Hmm.
uh, uh, so she was the one who kind of had me come in to do the Zazu, the Tiki Room
That's cool.
thing. And there were some other, got to do a sound alike of Pongo from 101
Well,
Dalmatians
that's
for,
cool.
yeah, there's like this thing, it's a Christmas, what's it called?
I think it was I think it was a video game
Lucky.
one.
Now,
Yeah.
it's like a storybook with a
Animated
cassette
storybook,
tape.
yes.
It comes with a cassette tape. That's how old it
Oh,
is.
okay.
And you play the tape while you're reading the book. And it's
Hmm.
called the 101 Dalmatians, A Lucky Christmas.
Oh, okay.
So Pongo was like the narrator of that thing. So I got to do
Yeah.
that
Hmm.
and just, yeah, the,
Hmm. That's cool.
one thing I do remember about the Tiki Room is that Carrie, that was the name of the woman who called me in and
Yeah.
did it. And there were a lot of like, upper echelon, types in the room
Yeah.
there. So I was like, I was a little nervous. There were a lot of suits watching, but I guess it went okay. And boy, it's been a lot of this is a really kind of cool trip down memory lane
Yeah.
for me. So
Definitely.
thanks for, remembering a lot of these things.
You're welcome, Michael. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, honestly. It's been so much fun. So,
Likewise, Amber. And I would, yeah, I'm sure we could do it all over again and, have
of
lots of
course.
other different things to. Now, I don't know if I have time to do the theremin, but maybe, next time. I
Well,
think,
there's 6 minutes.
well, I mean,
So
if you want, I can just walk over and
go
so,
on
oh,
then.
and you can even do it after we stop recording, or if you want to have it
Yeah,
saved.
yeah, that's fine. All right, well, I'll do the outro first then, if that's
Okay.
okay. Michael, where can we find you online? Have you got a website? Have you got, social media?
Well, there's michaelgough.com. Definitely, it needs some updating.
Okay.
There's Michael Gough VO on
Mm-hmm.
Instagram.
Yeah,
I'm active here and there. Oh, let me plug something real quick before
yeah.
we end, if I may, because I'm going to put it up on Instagram. So this will be the second time I've done this. I did it last year and was invited back to the upcoming Star Trek convention in Las Vegas in August.
Ooh. Mm-hmm.
What's it called? The Creation Star Trek. I think it's like August 8th. So to play the theremin for the celebrity staged reading of last year, it was the script of Plan 9 from Outer Space, the movie, the Ed Wood movie that Tim Burton made the movie Ed Wood about.
Yeah, yeah.
This year, and this is basically, celebrities, and it's a staged reading with script in hand, and it's a lot of like Star Trek actors. This year they're doing War of the Worlds.
Oh,
So last year they heard about me through somebody, and so I was playing the accompaniment, the theremin, and doing
yeah.
sound effects and music throughout. So they asked me back to do it again this year for the War of the Worlds.
Ooh,
So I believe that
wow.
is August 8th at the
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek convention in Las Vegas.
Awesome. Well, I'll get that bit in the description for you, along with your website URL as well. With
Yeah.
that being said,
Oh, and
thank you. Yep.
Facebook, Michael Gough VO also.
Okay. I'll give you a follow on there then in that case. Well, to you at home, thank you so much for watching this episode of In Conversation with ATF. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you around. Take care. Bye bye. And
Bye.
cut.